Welcome inside our New York City studio for this week's edition of Tour Confidential on Golf.com. I'm Jessica Marksbury, joined by Golf Magazine's Connell Barrett, Golf.com's Mike Walker, and CNN's Shane O'Donoghue via Skype. We are halfway through the FedEx Cup playoffs, but we've already had an entire month of marquee championships, and although we know the schedule is created so that golf doesn't compete with football, Shane, would it really be so bad to spread out some of these big events so that, we have a couple weeks in between and maybe extend the FedEx Cup playoffs into October, even if that means the end of the tournament coincides with an NFL kickoff?
I'm not the greatest expert on American football, though I love it. I have to say, though, that at this point in time, the PGA Tour owns the television right now. And maybe the atmosphere isn't as electric as we'd like. But, being halfway through the FedEx Cup, it's dominating certainly my attention. And, it's building to a nice climax in Atlanta at the Tour Championship. So I think they've done a good job in terms of taking ownership of the airwaves right now, because obviously NFL dominates once it starts. So, this is quite clever of the PGA Tour. Yes, it does make for kind of thin pickings, or slim pickings, as you might say, later on for the rest of the season. But effectively, I think this is a wonderful follow-on from wonderful marquee events like the Open Championship into the PGA Championship. And then the PGA takes over, and really does dominate with the FedEx Cup.
I'm having a bit of FedEx Cup fatigue myself. I think these events deserve a little bit more attention, some anticipation, a little bit more lead up. I'd like to see a couple weeks in between so that we can appreciate them a little bit more. I think when they're crammed together as they are, they just don't have the breathing room that they need. I mean, there's a reason why the Masters is in April, US Open in June, British Open July, PGA Championship August. You need some build up, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I do think part of the problem is that without sort of Tiger playing and Mickelson's kind of lost and McIlroy seems to be sort of conserving his energy for the long haul, that none of these events have sort of jumped up with like a dramatic finish. But I think it's like, you're eating too much chocolate cake. You had the PGA Championship, you had the Bridgestone, you had the Open Championship, you had the Barclays. I mean, it's all happened in the last 6 weeks. And yeah, you do need to breathe a little bit, and I don't think they need to be as afraid of football as it appears they are.
I could eat chocolate cake every day. And I think the reason why the FedEx Cup as a manufactured event has gained momentum in the last few years is because it's compressed into 4 weeks, and you actually have guys on TV like Johnny Miller talking about fatigue that golfers might feel because they're playing, oh my gosh, 4 weeks in a row. Now that's a little bit silly, it's just golf, but the fact that this playoff system is complete in a month, we get to watch it every week and not forget the narrative, not forget the storylines, knowing it's going to be done in 2 weeks of the Tour Championship. That momentum, I think, creates buzz in the world of golf. And by stretching it out over 8 weeks, I think you'd be like watching the Super Bowl, where you put one quarter in January, the second quarter in February. I just want to see it all play out.
Well, look, the PGA Tour, is the big tour. It's the one that they all want to play on. And effectively, we are dealing with, a world schedule, really, when it comes to those who are in the world's top 50. And they have other commitments. So at this point in time, we've got the very best players in the world all together battling it out for this wonderful playoff series. And I think they tweak it as they go. They make it better all the time. And I don't think they need to really change this too much because, there are other storylines that we can then concentrate on. Those who, are kind of battling for survival, those who are kind of struggling to try and, keep their status on whatever tours. There are other stories that dominate, certainly in America. And then when you look at all the top elite players, they can go back to Europe, as they'll have the Dunhill, Links Challenge, obviously in St Andrews and Kingsbarns and Carnoustie just after the Ryder Cup. You have the likes of Adam Scott and his compatriots who'll head down under, and play in some wonderful tournaments down there supporting their tours. Here in Europe, we'll have the guys kind of, who are really hanging on for dear life and then getting ready, obviously, for Q School over here on this side of the pond. So there are a lot of other interesting stories that can, keep the game fresh, because it has turned into a 12-month tour. there are golf events on all the time. I think the PGA Tour has done a wonderful job in condensing this and dominating, as I said earlier, at this point in the season.
Yeah, but see, I think that gets to a nice point. It's a 12-month season, but we have all these events in like 6 weeks. I agree with you, Connell. 4 in a row, keep the playoff momentum. But why do we have so many tournaments between, let's say, the British Open coming to the Barclays? I mean, everything's so jam-packed together. Then we're going to wait 5 months for the Masters to happen and people to get excited about golf again. If there was some way to space it out, and I think it might go back to when the Players was in March, I think that was a nice way to start the season. But the one thing is nice is that the Tour, I think, has shown they're not afraid of football by doing this FedEx Cup, because it's in the heart of the season, and they said, you know, we got great stars, we got great golf, we know our fans are going to watch, we're going to put these events on in September, and I think at the end of the day, the legacy of the FedEx Cup is meaningful golf in September, which is great. But the side of it where we're now playing, 8 weeks in a row, Mickelson's going to be exhausted by the Ryder Cup. I mean, so many of these guys are, and I think that that's something we really need to look at.
That's a great point. And we do have the Ryder Cup to look forward to, and that will be competing against football. That will be very interesting ratings-wise to keep an eye on. Well, Shane, Mike, Connell, thank you so much for your time and insight. Thank you all for joining us here on Tour Confidential on Golf.com. We'll see you right back here next week.